Hi, welcome to The Bald Guy Cooks, and of course I'm The Bald Guy. For tonight's simple recipe and what we're eating for dinner tonight is out of Michael Symon's 5 in 5 cookbook, 5 fresh ingredients, 5 minutes of prep, and just a wonderful meal. And it is the spinach and feta frittata. Now I'm going to be bald guiding this up a little bit because we like some other ingredients that we're going to add to this, but I'll show you the basic and talk about the basic foundation of this recipe, and then you can create your own food to go with your taste. And so I'm going to turn the heat on to a medium high, and on my dial that's about a 7 to get the pan going, and then let's walk through the recipe. So spinach and feta and spinach frittata. Now frittata is essentially kind of like an Italian omelet, except you don't flip it. So we have the broiler on to high on the oven, which is typically 500 degrees, and we're going to half cook it on the stovetop and then finish it in the broiler. So another skill, you could do it if at a lower temperature over a little longer time on the top, but I love the browning of the cheese and everything like that as well. So the ingredients, if this is for serving of 6, it's a little smaller portion than we're going to eat, so we've kind of half this, is 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I like olive oil, so we're going to use olive oil today. 4 cups of packed baby spinach, salt and pepper, 8 large eggs, a 1/4 cup heavy cream, and then a 1/2 cup feta. So I half the heavy cream because we're going to be adding that to the eggs, and you don't want it to get too thick so the eggs don't set up. And we're keeping that, we love feta, so we're keeping the same original measurements of feta. And then I sauteed some bacon and onions up earlier to add to this because we just love both of those ingredients so much. So let's get cooking. So I'm going to add a little bit of the olive oil. If you're using the butter, you might do a little lower heat. Butter has a tendency to scorch in a higher heat because of the milk solids in the butter. And what we're doing is wilting the lettuce, which means just cooking it down so it's not stiff like this. If you've ever gotten frozen spinach, that's definitely wilted. And so with this heat, we're just essentially just breaking this down so it's a little less stiff. And while we're doing that, I'm going to add the heavy cream to the eggs and mix that up. And if you have not cracked eggs, separated eggs, or beaten eggs before, go to the Basic Skills series and look up the egg piece. Just shot that before we came here. And so what we're doing, kind of move the spinach around, and we're heating the spinach up so it wilts, just like if you don't water flowers. If you got some for your mom one time and forgot to water them, that's what happens because it dries out. And then we're going to add the eggs on top and then cook it a little bit on the stove top. And then we'll add the final ingredients to it, and then we're going to pop it into the broiler and cook it from above, finish cooking it from above. Okay, so here's what wilted spinach looks like if you want to zoom in there. And so it's cooked spinach now. This would be really good if you wanted to add bacon to it, just as a side dish. Add a little more olive oil, some garlic to it. Sauteed onions would be really good with this. Okay. Just going to add a wee bit more olive oil as we add the eggs to it. And that way the eggs will come out really nice, hopefully. It's always kind of interesting cooking with eggs. And if I over clean the eggs out, I used to work for a chef that would throw stuff at us if we, wow, that's a great noise in the sink. He would throw stuff at us if we didn't scrape everything out. He's like, I paid for that. You need to use all that, so we're not wasting money. So I became a frugal chef really quick in my my cooking background because this guy was, well, he was smart. Train people to be frugal and use what they have. That's a good methodology. So while that's going on, so what's happening now is the pan's medium heat, it's cooking the eggs from below. So now we can add the ingredients, and the bacon and onions are still warm from when I cooked them just before we started shooting this part. And I cannot wait for this. Tanya got home from work and asked me, what are we having for dinner tonight, or what are we shooting essentially? And I told her, and she's like, could we add bacon or Italian sausage or something to add to that? And I was like, absolutely, we're in control of what we cook, so of course we can do that. And now we're going to add the feta. Like I said, I kept the regular proportions of feta for this from the recipe that I read to you because we love feta. You know, how can this go bad? You've got good spinach, eggs, one of my favorite food dishes, feta, bacon, caramelized onions. Oh my goodness. And the broiler's been on for a bit here. So let's see, I'm not sure if my cord will actually make it all the way over there. So let's just put a pause on. We'll walk over to the broiler and we'll pick up over there. Yeah, we probably need to. Wow, that was a rigmarole to get all the way over here with the cords and the lights and everything. Okay, so there's usually a broil button on your oven, and essentially what's happening is there's the big hot coils. Only the top one's on. When you're baking in an oven, there's a coil down here and a coil up there that are both on, so you're heating evenly. With this, it's just, I'm trying to think what an example would be. In a restaurant, there's a lot of examples. A salamander is what that we use in a restaurant where there's a broiler up above. And we'll check this probably every minute and a half. There goes our smoke alarm. Yes, we did it. Okay, we put the fire out. I say we have really sensitive smoke alarms. This oven's a little dirty, so we kept it open too long. So it's been about 2 minutes. See how the edges are puffy and they're starting to brown? The center is still a little jiggly, which means it's not cooked, so I'm going to put it in for another minute. Like I said, you could do this on the stove top. What you might want to do is put a pan lid over the top, or put a sheet tray, like a cookie tray over the top, which would keep the heat coming in instead of kind of coming off. So that's another way to do it, but it's, you know, one way or the other. So let's check it again here, and you'll notice how everything's kind of bubbling. That's just getting in good shape. I'm going to put it back for another minute. You might be able to take that out and it would continue to cook, but I just want to make sure. We want to make sure the eggs are cooked. 30 seconds. Tanya's shaking her head because I love eggs that are brown and sauteed well, and she's more kind of the French style, where it's more kind of raw. And if you ever go to a restaurant where you get scrambled eggs and they're kind of runny and still liquidy, that's how the Europeans, and I think mainly the French, eat their eggs. So, okay, this is nice and done. So I'm going to turn that off. And what you'll see is nice browned edges. And then we're just going to cut this into some wedges and probably have a little fresh fruit with it today. We have a nice big watermelon that we got over the 4th of July weekend, and it is good watermelon. So keep this nice and light and nice and clean. I'll meet you back over at the stovetop. And we're back at the cooktop. One thing to remember, if you're putting a pan in the oven, make sure it has a metal handle. It doesn't have plastic or rubber or anything like that. And also make sure to use a hot pad. This is a towel folded up, or a glove or something like that to keep the heat off your hand, because if you grab that, believe me, I know what those scars look like on the inside of your hand, because you'll just have a handful of blisters. So please be very careful around that. Okay, so now what we're wanting to do is just plate this up. We're going to eat half of this each, so I'm just going to cut it in half here. And then let's just run a bit of a knife, or if you have a spatula, kind of run the edges. It looks like it's not too terribly sticky, but it may not come out real pretty. And bring that up a little bit, put a little basil leaves on it. And everything's better with basil, so just pulled this out of the garden and shredded it, or sliced it up. Let's use it all. And then just put a nice, let's kind of go symmetrical. Well, let's go asymmetrical here. And so here's the Feta spinach omelet out of Michael Symon's 5 in 5 book. And then the frittata, and then we added bacon and sauteed or caramelized onions, and then just a nice wedge of fresh watermelon. And we are ready for dinner. So thanks for joining us at The Bald Guy Cooks, where cooking's easy, it's simple, and it's something that you can do. Thanks so much for joining us, and it's time for dinner. See you later.